All right, we'll say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. We thank you, first and foremost, once again, for the co-creation of this interaction and the allowance of this transmission in this way at this timing. It is with deep gratitude and appreciation that we co-create this opportunity to share with you. We will begin this transmission with the reminder that we have titled it, The Stone Speakers. And this will have to do with things that existed in the history of our world, and also things that existed in the history of your own, and also where it can lead. Let us begin by first reminding you that we have talked about the idea that our world, in our ancient language, ethethani, having recently shifted in our reality to a higher vibrational term, shakani, but we will, because of the place and time that our relationship exists with you, for now, continue to refer to it by the old vernacular, ethethani. We have a world that is similar to your own. It is very green, not so many seasonal changes as you understand them on your planet. Mostly a relative temperature of consistency in what you would call the mild to tropical types of environments. As we have said, we have no real built-up city structures on our planet. More often than not, our spacecraft are our cities. While we may have a structure for a variety of reasons from time to time, most of the planet has been left in a natural state. However, what we have not discussed before, and will discuss this day of your time, is that we have a few ancient structures on our planet as well. In your terms of time, the history of my people has lasted about 10,000 of your years, give or take. And the idea is that in ancient times, as we were learning, as we were evolving, as we were developing our understanding of our relation to ourselves and to creation, and similar to the way that people on your planet in ancient times did these things, a lot of ancient Sathani people built certain kinds of structures on the planet for a variety of reasons, many of which were made of stone. One in particular that we shall address this day of your time is in some senses similar to the structure on your planet that you call Stonehenge, but it is not circular. It is a spiral. And being a spiral, it stretches out over several acres of land. Now, these standing stones that were created by ancient people on my planet do not have the connecting lintels on the top that Stonehenge originally had and to some degree still has today. They are simply a series of standing rectangular stones with a certain space in between them that would be about the size of what you would consider to be a wide doorway. Again, somewhat similar to the spacing of the stones in your Stonehenge, but a little bit different. However, not all of them are empty, these spaces. Some of them are, but many of them are not. And in these spaces, there is hanging between the stones other slices of different kinds of stone, sliced relatively thin and hanging, in a sense, like a chime, a large chime between the major standing stones. Each of these thinner slices of stone, of different types, different colors, different kinds, has been specifically fashioned to give off a particular tone when struck. Just as you know that if you have a relatively thin piece of stone that is translucent, and you strike it, it will give off a kind of bell-like ring depending upon the stone. It will determine what tone it gives off. Each of the stones in this particular spiral structure we are referring to, which in our ancient language is called shadak. This shadak has been specifically engineered with specific types of stone hanging in between the standing stones that give off certain tones. And there are hundreds of them. And when individuals stand before these hanging stones in between the major stones, and they strike them in a certain succession or all at once, they are designed to give off specific chords, specific tones, specific harmonies, like a series of bells struck all at once or in succession, depending upon the purpose. But these vibrational tones are specifically aligned and matched to the stones themselves in certain ways to allow us to be immersed in that vibration, and in so being immersed in those frequencies, to be put in the proper state of being to be able to begin to commune with those stone structures, to understand empathically, to begin to relate telepathically with the idea of consciousness expressing itself as stone, because all is consciousness. All has its own form of awareness. It may not be very similar to the form of awareness that you express or we express as the kind of beings that we happen to be, but nevertheless, they have awareness of a very different type. And when you allow yourself the opportunity to pull forth from those stone structures in a specific way, those tonalities, those frequencies, and allow yourself to be immersed within them, it can be very transportive. And it can put you into a kind of hypnotic state. And in that state, you can begin to receive what you might call downloads of information from the stone consciousness, the stone beings, the stone people, if you wish to call them that. And in so being connected to those stone vibrations, those frequencies, it sets up a series of harmonics in your consciousness that allows you to begin to access different levels of the idea that are represented, of the frequencies and consciousness that is represented by the stones. Now, this was also an ancient art on your planet, long ago, as you say, in Lemurian and Atlantean times, although the art and the techniques were kind of lost over time. You are beginning to rediscover them again, and hence the great affinity that you're beginning to feel and attraction you're beginning to feel toward the idea of crystals, which are purified forms of stone for very specific tonalities, but also by being immersed in this vibrational energy, in these chords, in these harmonies, especially in that the shadak was designed specifically for this purpose by the stone speaker people on our planet, those that found themselves having this attraction and affinity to the stone consciousness, and who themselves allowed that energy to course through them, and who could speak for the stones and to the stones and with the stones. They allowed themselves to create, to fashion this shadak in such a manner as to not only set up a vibrational frequency, a bubble reality, that would allow them to communicate with the specific stones in the shadak, but also with all forms of stone, all rocks on our world, the mountains on our world, the planet itself being made mostly of these kinds of minerals. Because, even as you are, and because we are genetically related to you, our bodies, like yours, are also those forms that contain many forms of mineral. The iron in your blood, the copper in your cells, and zinc. All of these exist also within the stone consciousness. So you contain those vibratory elements that can connect you strongly to stone consciousness and allow you, when immersed in these vibrations, these specific vibrations, to also learn to participate, to partake of communion and communication with that form, that expression of consciousness. Again, not only just with individual stones or individual crystals, but all of them. Not only those that may be freely standing above the surface of the earth, but also within the matrix of your soil, of your mantle, of the idea of the planet itself. And by connecting to one world through the stone consciousness, you can also begin to connect to other worlds as well, and allow yourself to experience the matrix of the relationship of energy exchange and consciousness exchange that goes on, that exists as a network, as a web between all such solid planets and any solid or stony material that may be within the idea of your universe. When you achieve that certain resonant frequency, that certain resonant pattern within yourself, and begin to be immersed within it, you may feel yourselves slowing down a bit, since obviously stones don't move too fast. But that's all right. It doesn't mean that your energy or your vibrational frequency is diminishing in a negative way, but you may go into a kind of semi-meditative trance-like state as you begin to identify more and more with those mineral frequencies that make up the matrices of the stones of your world. Now, such devices as the Shadok and Stonehenge also serve another purpose. In connection with what we have said, in conjunction with what we have said, but created and experienced slightly differently. Because the spaces between the stones, between the standing stones, are very much like doorways. And they act very much like doorways to different dimensions, different realities, different levels of experience. And you can learn again to use them this way, even as they were used to gain knowledge, to download information from other dimensions, other realities in creation. The Shadok still does this. Stonehenge or some similar structure, if you choose to recreate it on any scale, can do this as well. If you allow it to be whole, once again, in the design that was originally intended, so that it is complete, and you begin to allow yourself to use the permission slip of finding the stones you are most attracted to, fashioning them in thin slices that are translucent and thin enough to ring like a bell when you strike them, you can begin to entrain yourself and rewire yourself to the specific frequencies of the different languages of the different stone cultures on your planet. For each different elemental matrix, in a sense, is a different culture and a different language in stone speak. So you can begin to train yourself to listen to those tones, to let those tones rub off on you, and begin to identify more strongly when you're out in nature with the stones all around you, the stones beneath your feet, and the stone matrices deep down in the crust, the mantle, the core of your planet, and from there, other worlds as well, especially if you do this within such a device, within such a permission slip as a complete Stonehenge or a Shadok. Then those spaces that are left open between the standing stones will begin to vibrate, will begin to resonate. They will become like resonating cavities as these tones are struck in sequence or simultaneously, depending upon what you wish to do. And as those spaces become resonating cavities, they will each be representative of a different connection, a different vortex connection to another dimension, another reality that frequency is representative of. And by standing in that doorway space and in that resonant frequencies as the other stones are struck, it can, in a sense, transport your consciousness or open your consciousness or unlock your consciousness in such a manner as to receive very strong impressions, visions, and experiences, and information and energy from those other dimensions that resonant frequency is representative of. Now, the stone speakers in our ancient language are also called Shadok Karini. In that you also have stone speakers on your planet, those who are very attracted to communicate with the idea of stone and crystal. You are your own form of Shadok Karini. And by allowing yourself the opportunity to form these relationships with these stone beings and really refine your ability to understand stone speak in all the different cultures that stones exist within, you'll begin to develop a repertoire, you'll begin to develop a lexicon in such a manner that any aspect of nature will begin to open up to you, because all aspects of nature, the plants, the animals, yourselves, in the ocean, on the land, and in the air, all contain the minerals that are in the stones. All are supported by the foundation of the stones. All are connected through the stones. And as you begin to gain familiarity with that vibration, the vibration of your world, your earth, what you call the Gaia consciousness, the collective vibration of all the stone beings on your planet, you will begin to identify with the minerals in plants, the minerals in animals, the minerals in yourselves, the minerals in the air. And you'll begin to notice that more and more information will be coming in. You'll be absorbing as you walk in nature, as you play in nature. You'll start absorbing little bits here and there. Walking through the forest, suddenly you might go, who said that? What did you say? You'll begin to realize over time that you will begin to speak the language of the trees, the language of the animals, the language of the water, the language of the sky. Starting with the foundational stone beings, will begin to lay the foundation for all the other languages that derive from it, that grow from the earth, that are spawned from the earth. For you all contain the minerals that the stones themselves are representative of. And so you're all connected in that way. Now, in our ancient times, along with the Shadok and the practice thereof of the stone speakers, this extended and expanded, as we said, into the understanding of the world as a whole. And so it was the stone speakers themselves who began to initiate the particular specific frequency in our world to set it up as a harmonic, a rebounding harmonic that amplified and magnified more and more and more over time, that began to create the unity among us all. And it is the first vibrational aspect to the overall vibrational equation that allowed us to ultimately experience the telepathic link with each other and with all forms of life on our planet. So as you begin to form a relationship with the stone beings and learn stone speak, allow yourselves to know you will be laying the foundation, creating the environment, the vibration that will help make it more conducive for others to also slip into that vibration anytime they are in nature, anytime they choose to have any kind of an idea of a relationship with a mountain, a rock, a field, a tree, an animal, sky, water, any mineral whatsoever. You will make it that much easier for that vibration to amplify and magnify in those other people as well. Now, crystals specifically, as we say, are kind of a refined version, since they are mostly of a particular type of element or combination of elements without necessarily being, shall we say, a jumble of them. There are fewer elements in those crystals. And so, in a sense, the crystals can function as very accelerated repositories of information, storage matrices, in a sense, that can hold on to information in a kind of orderly, organized matrix, the information of which then can be extracted from them as a storage unit, in a sense, by those who choose to align with that particular matrix. And again, if you can, and it doesn't have to be very large, if you can allow yourself to fashion out of a natural crystal, with as few occlusions as possible, as pure a version as possible of whatever that crystal is, quartz, ruby, doesn't matter, whatever you are attracted to, but if you can fashion a small slice that is thin enough to be wrung to produce a tone, the purity of that tone will help align the electrical centers of your brain, the electrical centers of your body, the cellular structures of your body very rapidly. So creating those little permission slips in the purest form you can and striking them like a musical instrument and receiving that tone and being immersed in that tone can be very accelerative and help you learn to identify that much more quickly, resonate that much more rapidly with the stone beings in general. The crystals, in that sense, are the keys to the rest of the stone reality. They are the representatives, in a sense, in pure form, of the whole reality, the whole world of the stone consciousness. So they are the ambassadors. That's what the crystals are. The purer keys, the purer gateways, the purer tones that will invite you into the world of the stones. One way to even accelerate that process as a permission slip is to actually be immersed in water when you strike that little stone bell. The vibration in water, because you are also mostly made of water, and the water is what suspends the minerals within you, will set up a vibrational resonance within your body that will be very, very powerful, very profound indeed. In fact, it may actually make you a little bit dizzy. So if you can take, for example, a pure little quartz crystal that has been cut into a very flat little shape, flat enough, thin enough, so that when you strike it, it will ring, and you can suspend it in something so that you do not dampen the vibrations when you strike it. And you put this underwater, and you're immersed in the water, at least to some degree. It doesn't have to be all the way over your head, but at least up to this level, at least up to the heart, above the heart. And you strike it underwater. That vibration is going to go into your body, and it's going to cause a resonant pattern to set up in the water in your body, in the minerals in your body, in such a way as to open up gateways, doorways, and rewire you, and to light a fire within you that is pure. And in such a manner to accelerate your ability to harmonize with and resonate with the stone consciousness on your planet. You all follow along? All right. Just wanted to make sure you weren't getting too stoned. So then, there may be more of this discussion interpenetrated into the ongoing transmission, but we will begin with that, and in so doing, extend to you once again our deep appreciation for the allowance of this transmission, and in return for the gift you are giving to us, I ask in what way now may we be of service to you with your questions.